Nottingham Forest have taken a huge step towards Champions League football after beating reigning Premier League champions Manchester City by 1-0. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at how they did it. We're going to be looking at the tactics involved that allowed Nottingham Forest not only stop City, but also get themselves the win. Nottingham Forest were fantastic. They were defensively compact, they worked for each other, and they made it really difficult for Manchester City to build through the lines and create clear-cut opportunities. But what is most impressive, and even more important, is the influence that Nottingham Forest had on City and Pep Guardiola before the match even started. And I think this is the major talking point. Pep Guardiola changed his build-up philosophy and tactics when it came to presenting in this match. Originally, Manchester City have seen quite a lot of joy from building with a 2-3-5 formation. That's essentially using the two fullbacks when they invert to be next to the holding midfielder, in this particular case Nico Gonzalez, and being next to him to allow for those two centre-backs, the three build-up players, and then the five going forwards. But Nottingham Forest's real transitional quality means that Pep needs to think a little bit differently about how City build up. He's terrified about Nottingham Forest turning the ball over and hitting City in transition, meaning that he only wants one inverted fullback. Now, this might not seem like a big thing, but it's crucial when you're talking about overloading certain situations. It also means you have an extra defender, and the actual team selection was also influenced by this. Kusanov being an extremely fast defender out on this right-hand side. You've also got Gvardiol out on this left, holding those channels, trying to make sure they have enough pace to deal with the Nottingham Forest counter-attack down these flanks. We know Forest really like to utilise those wide areas, get crosses into wood, make sure that they're able to penetrate through down those sides, but it was through the Manchester City team selection that you really saw a change, and with the way they wanted to build. That is the biggest compliment I think Nuno Espirito Santo and Nottingham Forest can be paid, is the fact that Pep Guardiola needed to change something to be able to try to get something out of this game against Forest. When it comes to the Forest team selection, they were obviously fantastic, but a couple of really interesting things to really keep your eye out for. Obviously, you've got them in their 4-4-2 defensive shape, but Elanga being a little bit more central with Chris Wood means that when City wanted to build, it was essentially walking into Nottingham Forest domain. They were perfectly happy with that, playing into their hands almost, with Elanga pinning onto Nunes, Wood pinning onto Nico Gonzalez. The build-up play from these three centre-backs was a lot more difficult, preventing them from building through the middle, forcing them out wide. And then once you got them out wide, you had the likes of Dominguez doubling up with Aina, Hudson-Odoi doubling up with Williams onto Savinho, and it made it really difficult for Man City to try and break through. Occasionally you'd have runs from Phil Foden between fullback and centre-back, but they were very few and far between, and in the end Forest found it quite comfortable to be able to stop City from progressing the ball forwards. But again, a really important thing is the impact and the influence that this Nottingham Forest side has had on one of football's best in Pep Guardiola. It was brilliant. And when we talk about Nottingham Forest's defensive display, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Men behind the ball, closing down the lines, closing that space. You've got your back four right here. But if they can't cover the width of the pitch because they want to stay compact, you've still got your winger coming across and making sure they're really condensing that space. You've then got your midfielders, again, closing down on the centre of the pitch, and you've got your front two here. It's really well done, really well organised by Nottingham Forest. It's so good, and it makes it so difficult for Manchester City to play through. There aren't too many passes on, and the lack of movement is caused by Nottingham Forest really closing down their spaces. They don't really have anywhere to go. It was brilliantly worked by Nottingham Forest. Again, another fantastic defensive display. Every Nottingham Forest player deserves a lot of credit, but for me, two players really stand out. One of them is Anthony Elanga. His real presence within the centre of the park was very impressive, giving him the flexibility to either go left or to go right, rather than being held out on that right-hand side. It gave Nottingham Forest a bit more steel with Dominguez on that right-hand side, but it also gave Elanga the freedom to then go and link up with Hudson-Odoi if he needed to drift out onto this right-hand side, and it caused City quite a few problems, especially with his spinning in beyond. The utilisation of the space in behind Manchester City's defensive line meant that Nottingham Forest were able to spin, they were able to transition as quickly as possible, and it always got them on the front foot whenever they needed to. To be able to best facilitate that, Morgan Gibbs-White with a deeper role next to Anderson really helped bolster this, and it was through Gibbs-White's deep-lying positioning that I think helped Nottingham Forest progress the ball forwards once they managed to get those turnovers. Of course, as I said, the rest of the Forest players were absolutely fantastic, and Callum Hudson-Odoi was another standout that did a really good job in certain situations. The ability for this Nottingham Forest side to win 1v1 duels is really impressive, and of course they all did brilliantly, but these are just some of the standouts in this side, and of course they deserve it with the quality, with the setup, and the brilliant display that they continuously keep putting on. Before we end, let's take a look at that Nottingham Forest goal, and it really sums up everything that we've been mentioning and talking about in this video. The quality of Morgan Gibbs-White from a deeper position gives them the ability to really find those long-range passes. We know he has the quality, we know he has the vision, and from this deeper position, it gives himself the ability to pick his head up and find those passes like this one that he plays towards Callum Hudson-Odoi out on this right-hand side. As he plays it, you're then looking for Nottingham Forest and Callum Hudson-Odoi in particular to really hold out wide and create that space for his teammates. As he does that, he then receives the pass in acres of space. Now this is down to Manchester City wanting to try and defend the central area where they've been exposed on a number of occasions, and Nottingham Forest are really going to take that and run with it. In fact, Callum Hudson-Odoi is going to run with it straight into the Manchester City penalty area, and it's at this point that Guardiola now needs to confront him, but he's got a big problem because Callum Hudson-Odoi, like most Nottingham Forest players, are extremely good at 1v1 situations, isolating those duels and then taking them in their own advantage. Notice the little run from Chris Wood as well, by the way, just dragging away Kusanov and making sure that Ruben Diaz has something to think about. It means that he can't then come and contest, and he's also not got a double up. I mean, Guardiola doesn't have a double up from Doku, which means that this 1v1 opportunity is really dangerous. As Callum Hudson-Odoi drives towards his stronger foot, his right foot, it then gives himself a shot-taking opportunity, I should say, and it's just so well done. I think the quickness and of the pace of the shot and the amount of time that he takes to really get a shot off really catches Ederson off guard. That's not to say that it's not a poor mistake, because it is. You can't be beaten at your near post in this particular example, but I just think it's so well done from Callum Hudson-Odoi. He's got an immense amount of quality. He takes the shot early, and I think he gets rewarded, and if you don't buy a ticket, you can't win the lottery. It is so well done from Nottingham Forest, from Callum Hudson-Odoi. You've got the players running into the box, and look at Morgan Gibbs-White here. He made that pass, and is he happy with just watching that pass go over? No, he needs to get involved. It's a proper performance. Nottingham Forest were absolutely fantastic, and I think they deserve the win. It was so well done from them. Really impressive stuff, and as I said, they take another step towards the Champions League qualification. But of course, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on Nottingham Forest and whether you believe they can make the Champions League for next year. I would love to hear from you, so please do get involved. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you learned something new, and hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.